Hi, and welcome back to, I think it's episode 9 of my playthrough of Talisman. As you might remember, the Terror Knight made it to the Oops in a region. Hopefully that's not a bad sign. And is now going to advance within the inner region. As I mentioned, he has to do that step by step, and because he has a craft or base craft of 12, of course he will go here to the left to the mines, to go the way of the craft, more or less. Additionally, there is still this event here in play which says at the beginning of a turn each character can fill up his spells to his allowed maximum. And as I mentioned that already, he is a crafty person and he would be allowed to draw a spell now. Right now he has these two spells. One is this teleport and one is this invisibility. And this says you can evade each player or opponent until the end of your next phase. And now let's draw the third spell. And oh, this is actually pretty good. This is a life theft, and this would allow to more or less drain one life from another player. Wow, that's nice. I think that's definitely something we can use for the end game. One thing I forgot to explain when I entered this inner region here. Normally you would have to roll 2 dice and select one of your abilities, so strength or craft. And when this 2 dice or the sum of the two dice is equal or lower than your chosen attribute here, then you would allow to pass. I didn't do that, and I apologize for not mentioning that earlier. But of course we have a craft of 12, so anyway we could enter the inner region here. So hopefully that clarifies it, and now let's see how we can commence with the gameplay in the inner region. So this time we don't have to roll the die for the Terror Knight, we will just go here to the left to the mines, and all it says here, now you have to roll 3 dice and then you have to subtract your craft from the result, and then just see on the table here what happens. So let's first roll the 3 dice. Okay, then let's see what we roll here. And this is actually a 10, and of course this is absolutely perfect. So we have now a result of this 10 here. We can now subtract the 12 from the craft point, and then we say and this would more or less bring us to the value of -2, and on the value of 0 then we would just stay here on the mines, and this says in the next turn we can advance to the left. Not so bad. And now it's still the turn of the cleric, so it's still the clockwise order, so this doesn't really change. So let's see what she can roll. So let's see, that's a 3. I think she will go to the left to the field, so that's 1, 2 and 3. So we would now have to draw our normal adventure card, and this is a Crypt Dragon. And this is pretty nasty because if he defeats you, then he would also put you to the graveyard, which is definitely not so good for a good character such as the cleric. This Crypt Dragon has a craft of 6 because it's nighttime, and we have a 7. So there is a way we can do that, but yeah, let's quickly roll our fighting dice. One thing I forgot, and this was to fill up our spells, because we can do that because of this event card. So let's quickly do that. And this says Betray Your Fate, and basically this would allow you to play this or cast this spell at the beginning of the next or the other player, and then we would just lose, or he just lose his fate token, and we can take this into our possession. This is good, and definitely not so good for the Terror Knight here. But now let's roll for. So this is a 4, and we add 6 from the Crypt Dragon, and this is 10, and we have a craft of these, so this is a tie, and I think this is better than losing, and I think this is just where we are at this point in time, so nothing really bad happened. So let's get back to our Terror Knight. So the Terror Knight wants to go here to the Tower of the Vampire, but of course first of all the Cleric plays this spell here, Betray Your Fate, and this would then allow him to draw or to steal the Fate token from the Terror Knight. So let's do that. So we take this one here away and give it just to the Cleric, and now it's really the turn of the Terror Knight. So then let's go here, and this is also pretty simple. We will roll a die, and then we just see how many life point this vampire will steal from us. In this case it's actually good to roll low, so this is not very common in this game, so let's hope for the best. That's a 2, and a 2 is pretty good because we are only losing 1 life point. And we can also give back one of our followers. I think this is what will do here at this point in time. So instead of losing a life point, I mentioned that we can also give the vampire something other where he can feed from. So we give this riding horse to the vampire, and then nothing else happens in this turn. So let's see how the Cleric can do that, and it's really getting tense now and really close for her. First roll her movement die, and that's a 5. Of course we need to draw our spell here first, so we can still draw these up to our maximum, and this is something like hard to translate. I think it's something like kindness, and you can just cast the spell to any other player and then just take all the gold from him. That's really nasty. So, but also this needs to be played when the other player starts his turn, so I will put that back, and with our 5 we will go here up to the city. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and there we have to engage the city. So we cannot heal, we don't want to sell any items, so we have to roll our die and go to the sorcerer, and oh, this is a 1 and a 1. Oh, you are going to be transferred into a toad, and it's always this player. Really nice. So yeah, I think nothing we can do about that, so let's transfer the Cleric into a toad for 3 rounds. So first of all, let's put the character card in place. So the Cleric is now a lovely little toad. Then we would lose all our gold and of course all of our followers and objects, and we'll put that to the city space. First replace the Minja, so this is now the toad again, and then we would place the gold here, all the nice little followers, and as well as all the nice little artifacts, especially the talisman and the nice little sword here. And then we just use our die here again to show that she will be a toad for 3 rounds. That was really not a good move. At least not for the Cleric. So let's get back to the Terror Knight, and yeah, let's see how we will commence in the inner region here. So then let's move here to the Abyss of Hell, or I think that's a pretty cool translation, and this is also relatively easy. We would roll a die and then roll for the amount of devils we would have to fight until we are allowed to pass to the Valley of the Fire. So let's really hope for the best, and we are really lucky here. So only 1 devil will fight us here, and each of these devils would have a strength of 4, and yeah, this should be solvable, to be honest. Yeah, let's just see how we can engage this one single devil here. So we have a strength of 7 because of our warhorse. We have our axe still in our possession, and we have a base strength of 3, and this would basically end up in 7 total of these strength point, whereas the devils have only 4. So let's roll some dice here. And yeah, not a problem. We rolled higher than the devil, and there was only one devil, as you might remember. Though we were really lucky, and I was really not cheating here. I really have to stress that here. So that's definitely, it's absolutely fair play. So in the next turn, we would be allowed to go to the Valley of the Fire. So the toad, or the warrior, formerly known as the cleric, can only move 1 or 2 spaces, so it really doesn't matter where we go to. So I think we would just go here down to the south, to the fields. So then let's draw our adventure card, and this is the Fountain of Wisdom. And this is actually not too bad, because we would now place 4 craft points on there, and every time you land on this field you may take one of these craft points to level up, basically. Of course, we will not do that while being a toad. Remember, the toad has only a craft of 1 and a strength of 1, so that's definitely nothing we will do until as long as we are a toad. But still, let's equip this fountain here with 4 craft points. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this will end the movement of the toad. Let's count that down to 2 additional rounds where the cleric will stay a toad, and then we can go back to the Terror Knight. So now we will go here to the Valley of the Fire, and there we have to show our talisman, which we have apparently. So I will just place that here for further reference. And now we would be allowed to enter here the Crown of Command. I guess the toad will go up here, and once more we'll visit the sorcerer. So we will roll another die, and this is a 4, and the 4 says you gain an additional craft point. Unfortunately, only the toad gains this craft point. So now we have a little bit more talented toad, but this doesn't really help the cleric actually. So now the knight will enter the Crown of Command, and as he is alone in this field, he will now more or less cast the last spell. And this spell is also relatively simple. He would roll a dice basically, and depending on the number he rolled, some bad things, or maybe not the bad things, will happen. So on the roll of 1, 2, and 3, nothing will happen, and on the roll 4, 5, and 6, all other players not in this field will lose a life point. So that's a 4, so the toad would lose the first life point. So let's give that first life point away. And you see, I forgot to show that to you, but it's only one more life point to one more round that the cleric will be a toad. So now would be the turn of the toad, but before that the Terror Knight will play this life theft spell, and this would allow him to also draw a life point and take this hit into his own possession. So the toad is actually already down to 1 life point, whereas the Terror Knight is up to 5. So I would assume that nothing bad will happen here in this last round of the Terror Knight. Of course, first let's move the toad one last time, and I think we'll just put her down here to the Fountain of Wisdom, and this concludes the turn of the toad. So in the next turn she will be a cleric apparently. So, but back to the Terror Knight, and now once again he has to cast his final spell, and again on a roll on a 4, 5, or 6, basically the toad is killed. That's only a 2, so nothing bad happened to the toad. So let's put the toad card away here, so we are a cleric one more time. And now we would also cast our healing spell, of course, so we will be now fully healed again. So 1 and 2 additional spells. And lastly, we will exchange the figure again to be the cleric. Now let's roll for movement. Okay, let's roll the die, and this is a 6, and this is actually not so good, because of course she wants to go back to the city to get all her belongings back, but instead we have to go here to the plains, and then we would have to draw our adventure card. And this is an ivory guardian, and it says that evil or neutral characters have to stop here. But yeah, this is a good character, but still we landed here. And yeah, this has a strength of 7, so we have to engage this guardian. So the cleric does only have a strength of 3, because without all her belongings it's not so good. The ivory guardian has a strength of 7, and let's roll a die. That's 2 and a 1. So the cleric would lose 1 life point, but she can use her special ability and will discard a fate token instead. First, let's draw up a new spell, because there's still this Witch's Hour event in play, and this is Revenge, and I think this is not really important at this point in time. You can cast this when I suffered a loss in a battle. No, I think that's not really nothing we can use instantly, at least. But let's roll for our spell here. And this is a 5. Of course, again, the elf, again I did it, the cleric would lose a life point. Again, she will decide to rather lose a fate token instead. Then let's draw also a spell for her, and this is Standstill, and this is more or less can be used when a new adventure card has been drawn. And I think that's not important at this stage of the game. So let's roll for the cleric's movement, and this is a 3. So we'll go down here to the ruins, 1, 2, and 3, and there we would have to draw 2 adventure cards. So then let's draw 2 cards. This is a horse thief, so we would have to discard any mules or riding horses whatsoever, but we don't have that. But as this is an event, we have to flip the daytime nighttime card, and now we are at daylight again. And the second adventure card is some kind of a ghost here, and as we are just put daytime here, she only would have a craft of 2, and we have a craft of 7, so I think it's not really a problem. Sorry, but let's roll our die. That's a 3 and a 1, so we have a total value of 8, and this is only a 5, so not a problem. So this will be discarded, and the cleric will gain another trophy. Back to the Terror Knight, and let's roll his die. Again, this is a 5, and again the cleric will lose a fate token, but it was her last fate token. Let's roll for her movement, and this would only be a 1. So let's move down here to the plains and draw our adventure card. And this is some kind of a wolf, and who only has a strength of 1 because it's daytime, and if you are defeated, oh, you're going to be a werewolf. Okay, there's at least some interesting perspective. So, but first, let's roll the fighting dice. So we still have a strength of 3, the wolf a strength of 1. And can you believe that? We actually lost that, and we are now a werewolf at this stage of the game. That's incredible. Okay, so first of all, we would have to lose a life point, and this is not really a life point, so no more fate tokens. And additionally, we would have to draw ourselves a nice little werewolf card. So we are now this werewolf, and really all things here are only happening when there is a when it's night, but it's not. So, but still we have to roll for the werewolf movement, and this is a 6, and of course we will send the werewolf up to the space of the Terror Knight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. He can pass the sentinel at any time, and now let's get back to the Terror Knight and yeah, ready to cast his spell. Let's roll his die, and again it's a 5. Really not cheating here, I promise. So again, the cleric would lose a life point, so he's now down to only 1 last life point. One more time, roll the die for the cleric. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have to really go down here because still on top of that is the guardian, and this is not really a good idea to go there. And yeah, here's this event still in play. But I think this we have to discard that. Yeah, because it got daytime, so let's draw an adventure card instead. And this is a wild boar with a strength of 0 actually, because it's daytime, but still we have to roll our fighting dice because the cleric is also not that strong, so we still have a strength of 3. Okay, that's this time not a problem, so we defeated this boar here and can claim this as our trophy. I think I forgot one thing, and this is what I will do. So I will play this spell here, this magical blockade, and no one would be allowed to cast any spell, and apparently this spell at the Crown of Command is a spell, so this time the Terror Knight is not allowed to cast that, so nothing bad happens. And I think we will also play this kindness spell here, and this would also steal the gold from the Terror Knight. So let's take this 4 gold away from the Terror Knight and put it in the pockets of the cleric. Nice. So I think the Terror Knight cannot really do something in this turn, so let's give it back to the cleric one more time. Let's roll for her movement, and this would be a 6. So to the left there is still this crypt dragon, so we will not go there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We will go here down to up to the fields, and this is another jack-o'-lantern, and this has a craft of 0 because of the daytime, and it's not a problem. We have a craft of 7, so there's not a chance for this jack-o'-lantern. Unfortunately, we do not have enough craft to trade in some of our trophies, so we have this 1, we have this 3, and another 1, so we have only 5 craft or trophy points, and that's not enough to level up in respect to craft. So again, let's roll for the Terror Knight and the spell. He's not now allowed to do that, and you won't believe it, it's another 5, and this will drain the last point from the Terror Knight, from the cleric. So the cleric does not have any more, let me zoom out a little bit, does not have any more fate tokens. This was the last life point, and the Terror Knight actually won the game. Who would have believed that? So the spell strikes this cleric, and on the fields here just defeating this jack-o'-lantern, but there is not a chance, and the Terror Knight rules the kingdom from the inner region, from the Crown of Command. Okay, that concludes our gameplay, or my playthrough of Talisman. It took me a while. To be honest, I have not believed that it would take so long, but with all the explanations, with all my mistakes I have to revert, it really took me some turns and some hours. But still, I absolutely enjoyed that, and I really hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. And yeah, I'm not sure what I will do in my next playthrough, maybe something lighter, or quite possibly something lighter than Talisman, at least something shorter. And yeah, until then, I hope to see you soon in one of my next videos, and wish you a nice weekend and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.